Okay. And we are live and on the air. This is the TWIS Minion Science Island Hangout. Same cast of people. Ed Dyer from Connecticut. We've got, excuse me, Justin from the country of California. Actually, we've been mislabeling it. That's not a state. That's an entire country. And we got
California over us.
Yeah. And we got Pamela and Chelsey, who are freezing down in Australia. It's down in the 50s, and they got hats on. They're wearing coats inside. I don't know. Dale Liebrecht should be around shortly. We've got a really interesting set of stories. But first, one of the things I need to do is, let's see if the link is working in, I don't see it on our YouTube channel yet. Okay. We got a bunch of stories. We've got another really neat smartphone device. It's a DNA scanning fluorescent microscope. And it's developed by a gentleman from UCLA. Got a story we were talking about in the pre-show we can jump into. And this is about a guy in Iowa farmer, former legislator, and his wife developed Alzheimer's. She had to be put into a healthcare facility. The healthcare people and her daughter, by another marriage, somehow got together and said that she was no longer capable of consenting to sex. Then they accused the husband, this guy Henry Rayhons, of having sex with his wife, and it was non-consensual sex at that point, and he was charged. They made a complaint. Prosecutor charged him. It went to trial, and he was acquitted. But what the guy went through is just absolutely absurd. We got another interesting story about women in Kenya growing aloe to make money, reduce soil erosion, and when their men are out taking the goats, taking their little goat herd away, and these poor women are stuck, and they didn't have a lot of food, so they've figured out a way how to make money, enough money so they can send their young girls to school, so they don't have to put up with the goat herders like they had to. And a big story is the Chinese science group editing human embryos, and the National Institute of Health instituting a ban against it. So let's start with that story we were talking about. And I'm going to screen share it, mostly because you don't have to look at the top of my head. Okay, there's our friend at trial, and when he was on a witness stand, they put the guy on a witness stand for like 3 hours, and he broke down crying, it says, 10 times during these proceedings. All right. He's a 78-year-old retired farmer, former legislator, been charged with sexual abuse of his wife. He was charged 1 month after she died at the age of 72. State prosecutors and her daughter, by another marriage, accused him of having sex with the ailing women, even after doctors told him that her dementia made her no longer able to consent to sex. He pleaded not guilty, testifying that all they had done on the night in question was pray, hold hands, and kiss. Many say that the case, which is the first of its kind in the USA, points to the need for nursing homes to have clearer policies, especially as the population of people with dementia continues to grow. Much of the state's evidence against this guy and his wife, that he had sex with his wife, was inconclusive. He admitted to having sexual contact during an interview with state investigators in June, but a hospital examination and rape kit for Donna found no evidence that she had been assaulted, which should have been the end of the case. And though the stains on her bed sheets matched Rayhons' sperm, a lab technician testified that the age of the sperm was unclear. According to his defense attorney, Mark Kozendurkey or something like that, who has tried several abuse cases in nursing homes, it's not clear on what basis the jury found Rayhons not guilty. They may have concluded that Donna was able to consent despite her Alzheimer's, or they may have decided that the prosecutors hadn't provided enough evidence that he had had sex with his wife. In mid-May, there's a little more details on the case, Donna's daughter sat down with her doctors and evaluated their mother's mental health. The guy wasn't present. They concluded that she was no longer capable of giving consent to sex and drew up a one-page document informing Rayhons of the fact. Okay, lots of problems with that. And then a week later, Donna's roommate reported to nursing home staff that she had heard noises that made her uncomfortable coming from behind a closed curtain around Donna's bed while Rayhons was visiting. Surveillance videos showed Rayhon dropping his wife's underwear into a laundry basket, big whoop, on his way out of the building. In court, the roommate said that she wasn't sure whether the sounds she heard were sexual. Rayhons testified that she probably heard him.
These people wouldn't know sex if they heard it anyway.
Probably not. Exactly. The daughter, I wonder if the daughter has any children. I don't know. I won't go on because it's really...
Okay, first of all, to the daughter, get over it. Your mother remarried. Okay? Your mother remarried. She found another man who was not your father, who she loved and married. That happened, and despite all your childhood wishes that it were different, that happened. She loved this man and married him. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Get over it. Stop already. You had your dead mother rape-kitted? Fucking inhumanity. That is the most ridiculous, that is the sickest thing I've heard of in a really long time. And I've heard some sick things. People tell me sick shit all the time. That's about the sickest thing I've heard ever. Just about. It's up there. Having your dead mother rape-kitted because you're concerned that her husband had sex with her one last time before she died. And she's not a vegetable. We're not talking about somebody who's a vegetable. Alzheimer's, even in an advanced case, have these moments of clarity. They're not completely gone all the time. Your mother may not have recognized you, but that's kind of a funny thing about Alzheimer's. Your mother may not recognize you, but she might recognize your sister or your brother or her husband. And maybe only for a few hours or a few days. But that's it. You just don't understand the illness. You don't understand that your mother moved on with her life. And you don't understand how to let go of your disgust with her second relationship. It's not her second relationship, by the way. If you think that, too, you're also wrong. It may only be a second marriage, but she's had other relationships, probably many before you were born. Let it alone. Quit imposing your... I don't know. I don't want to call it your morality. Don't impose your hang-ups on other people through a legal process. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Pamela, you were talking in the pre-show about your experiences.
Yeah, well, I concur with everything Justin just said, but I was just also saying, you know, I've worked in aged care for years as a nurse and dealt with Alzheimer's and dementia patients, and I was saying pre-show that one of the tasks, especially on night shift, which I did a lot of night shift, is keeping them out of each other's beds. So whether it's with their spouses or whether it's with someone who's just walked into the facility, that part of them is not dead. They might not remember their kids or their own name, but trust me, that part of them is not dead at all. Even if it was quite repressed earlier in life, it comes out later on.
Yeah, and also the idea that this man is inherently evil for wanting to have sex with his wife, even if she is slightly, you know, as though he's a pervert for before his wife passes on, wanting to physically connect with her one last time. Like, that makes him a pervert of some description, right? Ridiculous. He's a former, former legislator of some sort?
Yeah, former legislator.
Right. That guy probably got money. He could probably go out and hire a hooker if he's depraved. You know what I mean? If he's like a depraved he's just a you know,
just
if
so
he's just a
people,
pervert. There's paths for perverts in this world.
And we actually, as part of the in the facilities, that they have ladies come and look after men in the facilities. So you can actually hire them even when you're in one of these facilities as a patient. But so exactly, he could have hired someone if that's all he wanted. And besides, the woman, the patient who heard some noises or whatever,
who's the roommate of the daughter who's psychopathically obsessed with the relationship?
No, but the noises, she wasn't sure what she heard, right?
I don't really know what sex sounds like.
No, but she didn't hear. No.
And it was old people, so I assumed.
But she didn't hear, oh, no, stop, get off me or anything. She might have heard a bit of, you know what I mean? So what was she hearing? So she was hearing, if she was hearing what she thought sounded like it.
Why is the roommate of the daughter there?
leave the... No, it was the roommate of the mother. Because they share a room and there's a curtain.
Oh, I got you. I thought it was the roommate. Okay, I misheard it completely. I thought it was the roommate of the daughter. That made no sense.
It's like she could have left the room. No, maybe she couldn't physically leave.
So is this an Alzheimer's ward? Is this where we're taking another Alzheimer's patient? No, that's not fair. Yeah. But look, yeah, this whole story is disgusting, and this is keep government out of sex, and also keep what are they, stepchildren out of sex lives of their parents. I guess. Or all children. No children should have anything to do with their parents' sex life, except, you know, in the early stages.
No, I mean, if there were noises of abuse where she's saying, no, get off me, don't stop, blah, 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 then sure. But if she just heard a bit of grunting, then, you know, it sounds
There's only a curtain between them. They only had a curtain around the bed.
Well, it wasn't any of that, and even if there was, then you're like, well, okay, but how did the evening begin? Because this is Alzheimer's. There could have been a flip switched, and from one moment they were being seductive, and the next moment they don't recognize you. That's just such a disgusting story, and I really loathe this daughter-in-law for pursuing it to this degree. You know, it sounds to me. And what state was this again? This is some god-awful. Iowa. Yeah, Iowa. Nobody in Iowa knows anything about sex. I'll just throw that out there. It's probably, I bet you it's in the top 5 most sexually repressed states of the union. They should not be legislating on or having any sort of legal ability to do this sort of nonsense. This is just what you get when you're raised with the ethics and morals of a illiterate group of sheep herders 2,000 years ago and have no recollection or no relevant connection to actual human behavior or psychology or interaction. I'll be right back.
Hey, Dale. How you doing, Dale? Now you're Canadian, so I don't know how much Canadians deal with sex that much. I don't know.
Not sure what that is. Never heard of it.
Is that your daughter?
No.
Got earphones
Actually,
in though.
Um,
it's just a rental. Sometimes I rent kids just so I look like a family guy. Or anything like that.
okay, the story we're talking about, Dale, since you just popped in, is about an older guy. He's 78 years old. His wife is 72. She develops Alzheimer's. She gets into a healthcare facility. She has a daughter by another marriage. Somehow the daughter and the healthcare doctors get together and decide that this woman is incapable of consenting, and specifically incapable of consenting to have sex with the husband. And they had a very loving relationship by all accounts. And then a roommate made the complaint that they heard noises coming from they had this like a petition, like a curtain, a petition, and this roommate claimed that she heard noises coming from behind the petition, and that the husband was accused of having sex with his non-consensual sex now with his wife because she had an advanced case of Alzheimer. It actually went to court. He was acquitted,
Ugh.
and it's absurd. But the issue, an issue is dementia and all Alzheimer's. Being able to make judgments about their ability, their competency to make decisions about themselves. And with Alzheimer's, okay, you certainly have a memory problem. I know people, I've had Alzheimer's, and they can usually tell, it seems to me, that the person in front of them is someone they may know, but they don't always know who they are. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. The hospital staff in this case said that the wife always looked forward to her husband's visit, and so she had some kind of recognition who he was. So how do you make, I don't know, how do you make a judgment about what someone can consent to? I can see, for instance, over their financial affairs. Absolutely. You've got to name a conservator. The court's going to name a conservator because at that point you're no longer able to handle your financial affairs. I can see in terms of your personal health, because that's what happens. Also, people with Alzheimer's, they start wandering around.
Who can't handle their health or financial affairs.
But that doesn't mean they can't make decisions about their relationships.
This one completely confuses me. I don't. It bugs me even to hear about it, because you have like a loving couple in a committed relationship probably for many years, and who knows? That's a real tough one. That's an ugly one.
Yeah, I would like to know how. Well, we can't know, but the doctors and the daughter-in-law getting together and deciding that her mother.
Are we still talking about this? Please stop.
Justin, we have a young lady with Dale right now.
Yeah, I know, and I can't handle it. Look,
Okay.
this whole thing smacks of revenge, of a vengeance play from years of having been the stepchild and of never accepting the second marriage. It's done out of spite, and it's foul, and it reeks of pettiness.
Hello. Hello, young Liebrecht.
Her name is Grace.
Grace. Hello.
Hi, Grace.
They're all saying hi.
So what else we got on the docket there?
Okay, we got a really cool device. I'm going to screen share just so you can See what this little scanning device looks like. Okay. Whoops. Where'd my story go? I threw away my story.
An apparatus connected
There we
to
go.
an iPhone. It's going to use the iPhone as its computer. I'm
You
assuming
can,
that's
I tell you what, the devices they're coming up with, the apps and things, you can use a smartphone to do just about anything. In this case, and this is a guy by the name of Hydogan, Hydogen Osikan, and he's a professor at UCLA. And what he says he has developed is a smartphone that you can turn into a DNA scanning fluorescent microscope. Reading from the story. A single DNA molecule once stretched is about 2 nanometers in width. For perspective, that makes DNA about 50,000 times thinner than a human hair. Currently, imaging single DNA molecules requires bulky, expensive optical microscopy tools, which are mostly confined to advanced laboratory settings. In comparison, the components for my device are significantly less expensive. Now, his smartphone attachment: an external lens, a thin film interference filter, a miniature dovetail stage mount for making fine alignments, a laser, he's got a laser DIODE, whatever that is, all enclosed in a small 3D printed case and integrated to act just like a fluorescent microscope. The device is intended for use in remote laboratory settings to diagnose various types of cancers and nervous systems disorders such as Alzheimer's, as well as to detect drug resistance to infectious diseases. To use the camera, it is necessary to first isolate and label the desired DNA with fluorescent tags. In their lab, Osikan's group tested the device accuracy by imaging fluorescently labeled and stretched DNA segments. It reliably sized DNA segments of 10,000 base pairs or longer. More importantly, genes fall in this size and range, including a bacteria gene notorious for giving Streptococcus aureus, or whatever it's called, and other bacteria antibiotic resistance that is about 14,000 base pairs long. Once the base pairs drop to 5,000, the microscope doesn't do so well. In addition to its use in point-of-care diagnosis, Osikan proposes that his platform could be useful for differentiating high molecular weight DNA fragments, which are problematic for conventional gel electrophoresis or something, a frequently used technique in biochemistry and molecular biology. Osikan's group next plans to test their device in the field to detect the presence of malaria-resistant drug resistance bacteria. There you go. A smartphone fluorescent microscope. How cool is that?
Everything's getting smaller.
All right. I guess we can move on to the next story then. And
Was there
this
a price? Is there a price on that?
No.
Yeah.
I'll bet in 5 years you'll get something with a similar power available.
No worries.
I mean, it sounds like it really comes down to the focus, the lens that's in front of it. How much power is in that?
Oxford Nanopore has a technology in it. It's shaped like a USB stick, and it does a full genome. And it seems really amazing. I don't know if you've seen this little thing, but it doesn't just do your exome, it does your entire, every base pair. And as technology like that comes online, I think that's as the data analytics come online and get better and better, where cloud-based computing will have to start worrying about their jobs, I think, at that point.
In the short term, we're going to be learning so much from this technology that I think it will create new jobs. You'll have new jobs created to replace the old ones. You start talking about, 20, 30, 50 years down the road, I don't know. That's another story. Then you get into the whole robotics.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. I think you're right on there.
There's an interesting story I found in the Christian Science Monitor. And it's about women in Kenya. And their situation is their husbands, the men in the group, they're goat herders. So the men, a couple of times a year, have to take their goats and go off to the mountains, new pastures, leaving the women behind. And from the story, it sounds like the women in the past have had some problems growing enough food to take care of themselves. But they discovered a crop. They're growing aloe. And it's a crop that, one, it helps reduce soil erosion, so it improves the soil, and it also makes money for them. And one of the things they use this money for is to help educate their daughters so they don't have to marry goat farmers, I think. Let me just read from the story. Women herders in Kenya's semi-arid Laikipia County have broken with tradition. Break with tradition, yes. To support the leaves of a desert plant, to export the leaves of a desert plant to Europe, boosting their incomes. 300 women in this particular tribe have switched from the age-old occupation of goat keeping to the new and far more lucrative activity of farming aloe, a plant with healing properties. Along the way, they are transforming the economic status and creating educational opportunities for their daughters. In this drought-stricken area, it receives about 16 inches of rainfall annually. And only a few hardy shrubs and savanna grasses can survive in the terrain. The community's women say their men used to journey miles to Mount Kenyon in the dry season, seeking grazing for their herds, while the women and children stayed behind without enough food. Growing maize and vegetables would not produce good harvests in this climate. So the women decided 6 years ago to cultivate aloe. It's a plant common to semi-arid parts of Kenya. They formed 4 groups tasked with fighting poverty and gender inequality, and that's from the proceeds of the money they're making. One of the leaders of this group, Rosemary Putunoi, however you pronounce that, this is the Tawala Cultural Mayati Women's Group, said her group was given 40 acres of eroded land to farm by the men of the community in 2008. And I get this picture of the men saying, okay, we got to do something. These women are complaining, they don't have enough food. We got this desert property, not doing anything. Let's give it to the women, and let's keep them quiet. And then women turned around and they used it to make a bunch of money. When we saw an income opportunity in growing aloe, which we traded for goats from our men. We planted aloe on 2 acres to start until 12 roots of the plant were equal. We could exchange 12 roots of the plant for a goat. The men used aloe to brew a traditional fermented wine. But the benefits didn't stop there. The women discovered the plants reduced erosion, improved the soil, enabled grasses to grow, and then they decided to charge fees to herders who wanted to graze the land. They used the money and the proceeds from their aloe sales to pay for their daughters to be educated. Aloe plants are cultivated in a nursery before being transplanted to the farm. Exporting aloe has turned the women's lives around. They no longer have to rely on food aid from the government when drought hits, since they can provide for themselves. And the aloe leaves sell at 320 shillings, whatever that is. 300,000 shillings equal $3,000. That's what they get annually. It makes further income by leading tourist groups on walks, selling beads, and performing cultural dances. The total activities generate about 2 million shillings. In 2014, our lives are greatly improved. We have dividends among our members and use the rest to educate our girls. 21 girls in a boarding school. They also have started making cosmetics from the sap, including soap, body lotions, and shampoos, which they sell in guest houses and in a nearby town. So there you go.
That's a brilliant story.
I like it too. I didn't know aloe prevents soil erosion. I'd never heard.
The plant apparently does help reduce soil erosion. Well, we're talking about desert country. Okay, desert country means if you don't have anything growing there, then the soil and everything just, blows away. So if you can grow grasses or something on the soil, it can hold the soil there.
I don't know who said it. I don't know if this is a myth or a fact, and I hope it's a fact, but they said with all the countries that are falling apart, certain third world countries, that there's some sort of correlation that if you give women more power, make them more equal,
Someone mute
somehow,
me, I can't mute
somehow things turn around in all aspects, or in a lot of aspects.
Yeah, this is the pattern that we've seen over and over and over again. And exactly that. When you give women in society more power, the focus of the society becomes the education of the children, specifically the girls getting educated as well. And it lifts up the entire society. First of all, you have a less warlike stance because the mothers are more protective of children. They don't want teenage children going to war. You have, the entire society elevates in a scenario like that. When you look at the societies on the planet where women have the least say in the society, you see the most poverty and destruction. It's what it is. We need it to be a team. We need this to be a group effort here as a human society. And when it's lacking, you see abject poverty and destruction. It goes hand in hand.
That say about men, though. What does that say about men? Because if by empowering women and educating, if women educate and become, educate the men, that means men don't cut it as educators of children.
No, it doesn't mean that, Dale. Look.
You don't like men, right? Is this the...
No. You're missing part of the point. The other obvious extraction from this is that no completely female-dominated society exists on the planet. So they're worse at it, at monogender rule, than we are. That's why the Amazonian tribes died out in the ancient Roman days. It just didn't work at all. Male-dominated societies work because we've got this whole conquest thing. Yeah, we didn't educate or make anything. We can still steal it from our neighbor. Right? It's a destructive, impoverished plan, but it'll get you along. But no, the point is,
so what you're saying is women. So you're saying we need women to build up societies so we can conquer them. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, so you have better conquest opportunities.
Oh, I get it. This is a learning show, and I've learned something today.
No, it does, but it is when you focus on educating women. One of the things that happens is when they have more control over reproduction. There's less sexually transmitted diseases. There's more focus on family security. There's more focus on economic growth versus military conquest or machismo, points of pride. It benefits those societies who engage in that. I can see no better example of that than the United States of America. Maybe Canada as well. Maybe you can say nowadays Western Europe. These are the superpowers economically, globally, are those that have empowered their women. And before anybody says, but what about China? China has too. China has done really the story of China's coming to be a superpower parallels its educating and employing women, and doing away with the policy of daughters don't matter. I mean, that policy's over and done and ended, and it's the same trajectory. It's like those are the economy of China, and it's doing away with the women don't matter policies are like a parallel hockey stick. So yeah, empower women, you empower your nation. This is tried and true, and it's one of the biggest hurdles I think that India and the Middle East have. I mean, you talk about, well, you got to end the sectarian violence, you got to this, that, the other. No, it really comes down to empowering women. And if that took place, if that could take root somewhere in the Middle East, that nation would succeed where all the others around it are failing.
Pamela, you were going to say something? Pamela's frozen.
Pamela's
I think the issue, that word tradition.
I love the story because aloe is a succulent. It has medicinal uses, it has lots of uses. I've never heard of the aloe wine before, but I suppose you could make just about any kind of fermented beverage into it. But yeah, what a brilliant strategy to find their own economy and that works in the terrain that they're in.
I think the issue is that word tradition. In this case, you have a male-dominated society. They've got no reason to change. They want to maintain the tradition. They got no reason to change.
Let's be sheep herders for another 2,000 years.
Yes.
Why not? Good enough for Dad, good enough for me.
And then they made a mistake, however. They probably gave them this piece of property they figured was absolutely useless. But these were highly motivated women. They're trying to improve themselves. And they discover a way to do that. And then, once they start doing it, they're throwing away that traditional lifestyle, and they're going into growing crops, they're going into marketing their product, they're going into selling the product in nearby hotels. I mean, you have a whole dynamic going on because they've moved people at the bottom level, in this case women, they've moved away from that traditional idea, they've thrown it away because they've built something better.
You know what? Something I've noticed in the workplace. If you have, in an area, if you have a bunch of men working in an area, You get a sort of a, and then if you get a bunch of women working in the same area, it's not good either. I find that and I don't know if this is a societal thing, but women together get very, what's the word for it?
So there's a Family Guy. There's a Family Guy episode where I don't watch it enough to remember the main character guy's name, but he has this he gets these girlfriends. He has this group of girlfriends. He tells his wife, like, just so you know, I got this group of girlfriends. They're just hanging out and talking and stuff. I just want you to know, it's important that that they criticize you a lot. But it's I don't know why, but they do, and I felt I had to tell you. And she goes, oh, no, women do that all the time. That's what women do. Watch. Next time you're hanging out with them, leave the room, but put your ear to the door. They'll be talking about you. He's like, no, they really like me. It's like, yeah, no, they like you. Doesn't matter. What women do is they talk about the woman who's not in the room. They criticize people who aren't there. That's what women do. And so in the episode, he leaves the room and he's like, oh, they're talking about me. They're making fun of me. That's not right.
May I say, you don't hold it.
There's a woman in the room. What the?
And I've even had it commented. I've had females comment and say, you never gossip about anyone. You know, and I said, no. I said, anything I have to say to someone, I say it to their face. I don't need to say it behind anyone's back. But I've also had it commented many times that I'm basically like a guy. So I get invited to guys' poker night and stuff like that, So that could be it too. But that's crap. Surely I'm not the only woman in the world who doesn't do that.
And I think part of that, and I'm going to be completely is it misogynistic? Sexist? Am I being a sexist? I might be being sexist now. But I think what I've noticed is that if that's true, and I mean I'm not there for those conversations. I mean I've heard women talking smack about each other, but it doesn't really seem to be like they actually hate that person.
I do. I don't join in with them though.
But guys I've noticed tend to do the same thing with each other present. Like that same work environment where it's all guys. Eventually, they've all got the little snarks that they're doing to each other. You find the guy's weakness, there's a little snarky conversation, you throw it out there, or whatever. Everybody ends up with a stupid nickname. I don't know. Whatever it is. We do it, but we just kind of do it, I think, to each other's face more. And I think the reason women don't is because it's like that answering that question, do I look fat in these jeans? You always have to say no. Of course not. Right? Like, what are you going to do? Like, women will take a face-to-face criticism way too personally. That's sexist. Not everybody acts like that, obviously.
You've hit on it because except for the 9 months when I was pregnant and for 2 weeks afterward, I've been the same weight for about 21 years. Right? I'm back to it. I never look fat in jeans. Right? My butt never looks fat. So I never ask that kind of thing. So maybe that's why I'm different.
And I can tell my girl, if she says, how do I look in these? I say, oh gosh, those make you look really fat.
Why now do you need them to look
right, yeah.
But I'll say that about everything. So, like,
The rest of the night, just know that you've had a shower.
Maybe I married a guy. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe she's really a guy and is snarky. Because she's really snarky, too. But
yeah. No, but that's the difference. I think if you're a secure woman, you don't do that then. I don't know.
It's competition.
And maybe I haven't. But I don't think I'm with other women.
But there is actually something to that. To that gotchiness that's a stereotypical, but we can agree actually exists, nature of women when they're talking, where they're in a way actively vetting the behavior and interaction of their society.
He's right here.
it's sort of an analysis of who's doing what the impression is, what that act is, if this is appropriate, if it's not appropriate, if this is the way we should interact. In a way, it's sort of like an active analysis of society. So maybe it's an important thing that we have, because if it's just guys, we're just going to murder and pillage. That's all we know. That's right. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just bash something with a rock. I mean, we're not quite that bad either.
I don't know.
Something I found recently, I don't know whether to say this or not, but
Are you
separated from my husband.
Pamela, are you currently sled dogging? What's going on over there?
I'm cold. Shut up. I've spent like 30 years in tropics, and now I'm in a non-tropical environment, and it's cold. Anyway, sled dogging. No. But anyway, so since I am separated, I'm not dating per se, but there have been gentlemen who have expressed an interest in dating, and so the way to go about it is they spend all their time saying horrible things about my husband, right? And that it's like, okay, so we've just had 5 hours talking about my husband. I'm not really interested, you know what I mean? And so bagging the other guy is not a turn on. It's actually just reminding me that I made a really bad choice and I must be a dickhead. And if I'm spending time with you, maybe you're a bad choice too. You know? So guys do bag each other behind their backs.
Pamela, if I had the opportunity, I would totally go down there and talk to you about your husband for like 5-10 hours. There's no laughing.
I'm not buying the gender difference. It exists only in form. That is, guys and boys and girls are exactly the same. But for instance, when you get guys, they're going to be competing. They got the testosterone, and they're going to be competing with each other, just like Justin said, around the water cooler. Women do it. It's just in a different manner. You know, around the water cooler. And I think that's cultural too, because if you look at two groups, my neighborhood, you have the young guys going outside, and then you have the young girls going outside. The girls always seem to get together in a group and get along fairly well. It's the guys that start, you know, competing and pushing around and that sort of stuff. But as the women grow older, they get into that environment where they're being taught you got to have that date on Saturday night, and you got to go out with Johnny and I, all that other cultural garbage. And that's, I think, when you see the kind of behavior that just catty behavior, whatever the heck you want to call it. That's strictly cultural. That's not gender, I think. You're not buying it, Justin.
Well, no. I mean, I think it's okay to say the male brain and the female brain operate differently. I think that's okay. I think the way that we perceive the world it's across too many cultures, it seems, that the differences are there. Although part of this I have to take back almost immediately in saying this, because across cultures isn't exactly true. The male role and female role in cultures differs significantly. The acts of machismo and bravado in, say, Japanese or Chinese culture in a man is not highly valued. Right? Being calm, cool, and collected, being steady steward of the ship is, but having that sort of, you know, emotional or whatever it is sort of swing to you that may be really attractive in an Italian, if I can say. It's not as attractive. So there may be different cultural stereotypes depending on what society you're But in terms of America, I do notice women will be like, and she was like this and had this facial expression and was like that and be really into that human communication. Where men do have this sort of cave thing. I feel like women decompress through talking, usually about people and relationships. And I think that men tend to decompress by going into the cave, tuning on the television, and having a cold beer. I think we want to just remove ourselves from society and go into the cave and just be a little bit, not necessarily introspective, but a little bit antisocial.
I'm definitely a guy.
Is our decompress reset zone.
I am a man.
Am I wrong? Wait, what's the feedback here?
I was just saying that I'm definitely a man.
You both keep talking over each other. I can't understand either of you. Wait, Dale, go first. What are you saying, Dale?
Well, I was just saying that Ed started saying something earlier before, and I wanted him to finish. He just said one word. He said competition. And can you elaborate on what you were going to say?
The way in which your competitive instincts are expressed. And this, I think, again, is more cultural than gender. I think, for instance, if guys, they grow up, they're used to be, I mean, they're going to be in the culture, they're going to be the leaders, they're going to be the football players, they're going to be the people in the army, and so you get this machismo. And men have that testosterone, which certainly this behavior maybe flows from it. But you look at modern society, the more modern society, you're seeing more women, more young girls behaving in that similar manner. You're seeing women going into the army. You're seeing more women who are acting as aggressively as what used to be the private domain of men. Well, now you're seeing young girls being just as aggressive. You're seeing young girls in sports. You're seeing women going into boxing and things like that. And I think that's where I say these behaviors are more cultural than they are genetic. Possibly we're evolving as society evolves. Is that any clearer?
Yeah, so Pamela, I just an observation. So how do you feel about just generally other women in general, like the type of personality specifically, the princess type of girly girl lady? How do you feel about that type of personality? Is that something that you admire?
No, I just have nothing in common with them. So I try not to talk to them because they get upset. Because just as an example, this is something that comes back to my mind. When I was 20, I worked for a cash converters, which is a pawn shop, right? But it's a chain. I don't know if you have them over there. And I was working in the jewelry section, and this woman came along and she was looking at the jewelry there, the high-end jewelry, and she goes, "Oh, now I just need to marry a doctor, so he'll buy it for me." just so we know, I was only working there because I had to put myself through university to become a nurse, which I did, which we discussed earlier. Anyway, and I said, "Why don't you just, become a doctor and buy it for yourself?" And she looked at me like I was an alien. So I just stopped talking at that point. That's a metaphor for how I just you know what, I actually envy them, if anything, because if that's all that they have to worry about, whether their shoes match their handbag, I would like a life like that. I think that's really nice to be that shallow, because I've had lots of ups and downs, mainly downs in my life. So I would enjoy being that shallow. But unfortunately, I don't have much to say to ladies like that. Yeah.
I
don't have a lot of shoes.
Do you feel the same way
Well,
about
it wasn't really
men?
like you, Pamela. Ladies like that would still be sheep herding, or backing up the sheep herders, or just cooking for sheep herders. I don't.
Oh, look, I had a bit of stress this morning where I've got to do some stuff for uni, and then it's going to cost me an extra $500 anyway. And I sort of went, I had a moment where I went, oh, if only I could just, turn my brain off and just it would be nice to be one of those women for 5 minutes. And then I put my brain back on and got back into it. But yeah, anyway.
Oh, see, this is the gender difference right here. Guys, this is it. This is exactly what I was saying. Right? This is the part of the lifestyle you're living that you're missing, Pamela. When he said you're more like a guy, okay, but here's part of what we do at the end of a long day. We turn our brains off. That's what we do. We turn off our brains. We got an off switch. So we don't have to match the shoes with the handbag, and we just turn the brain off. Click, boom, brain is off. Oh, football. And we just do this.
Mine doesn't turn off.
Yeah, that's and that's both the superpower and the downfall of women. The lack of ability to turn off your brain completely. You should really try it. It's comforting in a way, not to have to think at all.
Yeah, I used to have sex for that, but oh well. I don't have sex anymore. I'm a mom, a single mom.
Yeah, you're a good mom.
Okay, I can think of two women. Pamela, you were involved in the protest movement, and it's a Tangerine Boland. Is that right? And she was basically kind of the leader of the group. Would you say she's worried about whether or not her handbag matches?
Oh, no, I love Tangerine. No, she's one of the ladies I get along with. Yeah. But I can count them on one hand, the amount of ladies that I get along with. But Tangerine's one of them. Yeah, I love her to pieces. Yeah.
But Ed, I think
awesome.
It's a little unfair to suggest that a woman can't do both.
Oh, yeah, no, you can do both. Yeah. When I need to, my issue is that.
Okay, let's go back to the Wayback Machine.
I'm also not afraid to be in my pajamas.
Okay, Justin, you're back in medieval times.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You got the king, and you got the rulers, and you got the guys in their incredibly fancy outfits and the little pointy-toed shoes and things. And they're worried about, they're matching their handbag. I gotta tell you, they're very concerned in making sure their outfit is impressive enough, just as any supermodel today. And if you look at women today, there are more women today who are less concerned with things like makeup and matching handbags. You look at popular TV, yes, but you go outside in public, you see, there's Richard Drum last week. The person in his podcast, Pamela Gray, I think her name is, she's a woman, and she's involved in Cosmo Quest, and she's got her podcast, and I don't think she's worried about whether or not her handbag matches. You got Joanna Masterson, and she has another podcast, Read Science. You got her friend Kiki. Kirsten likes to play dress up. I'll certainly give you that. But it's not necessary. She doesn't like to, go to a hairdresser and get her hair made up.
Yeah. So, and I agree with you. You hit on, I think you hit it on the nail on the head there when you mentioned the media. Because even if you look at today's modern media, you have people dressing in all sorts of, everybody's hair is perfect for the scene. But other than that, they can dress like kind of pretty much however. If you look at, and I'm a big, I grew up somehow on like 50s television. And everybody had the hair done up in a 3-hour do. and the handbags, and was dressed to the nines in every scene and every shot of every one of these things. So there is something culturally that tells you that you have, whether or not you have to look perfect. And I think a big revolution in the American culture in that aspect was the 60s. That sort of the hippie movement, showing beautiful women without makeup. I don't know that we get that without the 60s sort of hippie movement. I don't know where else beautiful without makeup would have come from in our society. I don't know that it wouldn't have continued. That right now there's other cultures that are having trouble with this. Plastic surgery is so common in places like Colombia and South Korea that it's almost a given. I mean, people save not for college but for their daughter's plastic surgery. There was one man, I believe this is a South Korea story, but maybe she married a Chinese man. It doesn't really matter. But the husband sued his wife because their children were not attractive.
No. Yeah, but...
And it was because she had plastic surgery, but beforehand wasn't as attractive.
Yeah, but she didn't disclose that to him.
But so what? I mean, this is my point, though. So it's gotten to body facial manipulation surgery.
He married her thinking he'd have a beautiful family. I'm not saying he was in the right, but I'm just saying, think about it. If you marry someone under these assumptions, and then, well, like the first one came out, you might think, whoa, but he had 3 of them, right? This is where he went wrong. I mean, and then if 2 come out, then you should start asking questions. How do you end up with 3? You know what I mean?
But I think the point I'm making, though, is that when you create a shallow society, then you have those expectations, and I think we had that in this country, and I think that we broke it. I think we broke that society to a large extent in the 60s and 70s, and then it came back with roaring bad fashion still in the 80s, and then we've been, in the modern age. It's the conversation about airbrushing. It's the conversation about altered photos. It's the conversation that we have about, about that sort of thing, where we're openly discussing the sort of boundaries between the shallow society image and the reality. We have women who protest their photos being manipulated, actresses and the like, and bring that to the forefront of public discussion. So there anyway, yeah. So there is I think both the continuation of and the opening of the discussion of that issue.
I mean, look at the cosmetic industry for men now. It's a bazillion-dollar business. Guys didn't wear cosmetics, and they didn't worry about stuff like that in the past. Now, all of a sudden, you have this tremendous industry selling cosmetics to men.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of, other than, like, deodorant, I don't, like, have any male grooming products. Like, I don't do hair gels. I certainly don't do any makeup stuff.
Well, look at me. You think this is an accident?
Like, what are you gonna? I don't know. I mean, I actually don't like it in women, though. I actually don't like it. To me, a woman wearing a lot of makeup is a disguise, and I just assume they're hideous. But I mean, no, really. Like, I've never been. I'm not attracted to makeup. Like,
I'm hideous without makeup.
Well, if you want to make a painting, make a painting. If you want to have a face, have a face. Right?
Yeah. No, I look better. I look much better with makeup. I'm not afraid to be seen without it. But yeah, I look much better with it. That's for sure.
Okay, so your lipstick looks really nice right now.
Thanks. Yeah.
Wait, you are wearing
I had to had to be on a business call.
I was joking. I
I
didn't
am.
know you had
Yeah.
lipstick.
No, I was on a business call.
So you were on
I was on a
makeup?
business call before this.
A
Yeah.
business call? Wait, you were on the phone and you had to put makeup on? I don't understand.
No, I used
So those aren't your
Skype
real lips?
for everything.
I just thought
No,
they were
they're fake
capturing-
lips.
Okay, so there
Yeah.
is makeup there. All right. Well, I was gonna make a comment that got ruined by the fact that I was fooled by makeup.
Don't forget the public publicity pictures, television, etc., movies. Guys wear lipstick. Guys
But
wear
you've seen
makeup.
me without
Not the same
makeup.
time, but they do.
Oh well, yeah, no, and you have to in film, and stage because lights, because you're controlling the lighting and you have to control the surface the lighting is hitting, and natural human oils and the like create all kinds of sheens that ruin shots. So I get it when you're doing theater. It totally makes sense for theater. Wow, how did you? And that always freaks me out. Eyeliner freaks me out. Watching people put eyeliner on they might as well be like dribbling sand around their eye. I'm just like, oh, stop. I can't watch it.
The goth look. Guys wear that sort of stuff with the whole goth look, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never.
Yeah.
That's
But I
maybe
don't
why
wear
I
makeup all
get
the
into
time.
this.
I've been on here. I've been on here more without makeup than with makeup.
I'm going to screen share something that Kirsten posted on Facebook that kind of talks to the story. And you can take a look at this picture and decide for yourself. Number one, okay, Pamela, you shouldn't feel too bad. She looks like a little dwarf among giants or something there. And she's not wearing a lot of makeup.
I think Kirsten's taller than me, or about the same height anyway.
What
She's
height are
taller
you?
than you? Or the same
Yeah,
height?
I don't feel bad about my height though. I'm quite happy with my height, so I would never feel bad about it.
What's your height?
My height is 5'1".
Okay.
But I never feel bad about my height.
I heard a beep somewhere. Somebody's signaling me, talking to me.
I keep hearing beeps all the time. I don't know where it's coming from.
Could somebody take a look at? Oh, wait a second. On ScienceDial.org in our chat and Hangout page, the video is now showing, so I think we're okay. Could somebody take a look at my channel on YouTube? And I don't see the live video showing up there.
I'll check it.
I think we're okay, though.
Check it.
All right. When Justin gets back, we'll talk about human editing of DNA, human embryos. And there is, come on, I know you're there. Here we go. Posted the links in the chat area.
Your YouTube stream is working perfectly, Ed.
Okay, that's good. You know what happened today on Facebook, and a lot of people posted about it. Facebook their algorithm went crazy, and posts were disappearing. I wanted to put up a post on Facebook from The Guardian, and I got a notice saying there was a security problem, security issue. So, and other people have been complaining about a lot of lag time. And we had, like Dale, your picture, and it doesn't look like you're getting any lag now, but when you first came on, you were. So I don't know.
And when I started, I wasn't getting any lag from you guys, but right now your voice actually comes through. It's different. The voice is kind of following the video.
Hmm. So we're seeing your connection getting better, and you're seeing our connection getting worse.
Yes.
Oh, I just had a quick look through my Facebook photos, my profile ones, and most of them are of me without makeup. So, but I use, just to clarify, but I use Skype for everything now. It's my phone. And I was trying to look professional and hide my pajamas that I have on.
Okay,
But
Pamela.
yeah, no, I don't need it, hey?
At what point do you plan to teach Chelsea how to use makeup?
Oh, when she asks me, I guess. I'll just play it by ear. Because my mother, my mother didn't wear makeup. She was allergic to everything and didn't wear perfume or anything. So I didn't learn from her, and she didn't want me to wear makeup. So when I turned, I don't think she ever saw me with makeup because I didn't wear it until I was an adult. Oh, I snuck it into my school bag, so I didn't legitimately wear it, so she didn't know that I wore it. And I'd put it on at school and then wash it off before I got home, kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't wear it sort of out and about until I was an adult. I didn't have anything pierced either. So hopefully I won't die when Chelsea's young, and so I will be able to teach her these things. That'd be good. But yeah, even if my mum was alive.
I wonder what the science is behind makeup and cosmetics, because one thing some would help you with protection from the sun. I now read that some of these skin foundations or whatever, they're going to protect you from the sun. Well, that's certainly useful. I could use that as a guy.
Yeah. My powder that I've got on now is sun protection factor 25. Not that I need it here today, indoors in the rain, but yeah, it is. So I know I'm always protected. But yeah, I think they all have sunscreen in them now. I'm pretty sure that's normal. Well, it is in Australia, where we have a very high rate of skin cancer. But you don't need to wear makeup to do that. You can just wear sunscreen.
I think we can get started on the next story, unless you guys want to ramble on about anything else and wait for Justin to come back, or we can just go into the next story and speak of the devil.
So actually, I will just ask Justin. So you're saying you don't like ladies who wear makeup. Do you like everything natural on a lady?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely.
Ew.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise I could just order it on eBay, right? Right? I could just order a couple of silicone bags and, a plastic face. I don't know what you can. Fleshlight. What is that thing? Like, if that's what I wanted, I wouldn't need to interact with a human being at that point.
So you have Italian heritage, and Italian ladies do tend to have more facial hair sometimes. So would you advocate that a lady keep a moustache if she were happen to grow one naturally? Or would you prefer that removed?
Okay, you got me. Be honest
now.
You got me there. I wouldn't want them to fire the gardener. I think a little hedge clearing here and there is completely appropriate. But I also shave. Like, I shave my face. Like, I don't like to leave the house unshaven. Like, I feel like awkwardly. It's like as though I didn't bathe or comb my hair. I mean, I think there's a certain level that I have that I hold on to. Certainly, that is, I don't know if it's shallow or if it's keeping up appearance thing, that I think is appropriate level of doing this sort of thing, right? But there's to me, excesses, and caked on makeup, plastic surgery. These to me are excessive, and to me also sort of maybe indicate a narcissism that I think, you know, plucking an eyebrow or shaving an armpit doesn't imply, right? Like there's a level to me that seems normal, and I'm sure this is completely subjective to my positioning of what I'm considering to be normal and not normal. In some societies, of course, the caked on makeup and the plastic surgery is normal, so that's the thing you do before you leave the house. So it is completely societally subjective, individually based perception. I agree.
And guys don't have the equivalent, I don't think, of breasts, where a part of the body that prominently on display that's going to determine some degree of attractiveness. We got the bilge belly, and some guys are concerned about that, but nothing like the breast, because let's face it, that's how we started out in life, on the nipples, right? So
Yeah.
it's
a mammal thing.
Natural.
It's a mammal thing.
Yeah.
All mammals are obsessed with breasts. All of us. Male, female, doesn't matter. It's a mammal thing. Although to your point, and I don't know why that triggered the memory, but I remember it was high school, so it's somewhere, you know, in the mid-teens. A girl I was hanging out with saying she could tell guy size if they wore jeans. Which had never occurred to me, of course, because I'm not, you know, I'm not monitoring. But she's like, oh yeah, you know, it's, when guys are wearing jeans, you can tell.
That doesn't equate to the important size, if you know what I mean. So just because, you know, some stretch more than others.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, was it? I don't even remember what we used to say in the scroll ground was the size of the middle finger or something, was this equated the size of whether you had a long or short penis or something like that.
Yeah, but tucked into your jeans is different to out and being used. So, you know, it's not unusual for some male ballet dancers to add a little bit of enhancement to their package. But I don't know why they would, because just that doesn't have anything to do with the end result.
Well, male ballet dancers do not wear underwear or anything. What you see is what they got.
No, but it's not ready to go.
That's true.
Right. So what I'm saying is that doesn't necessarily equate to how it is when it's ready to go. Some stretch more than others.
We are learning.
So I don't know how that's a good
episode of Science On tonight. Things.
No, but you're saying that chick said that she could tell by how they were in jeans, and I'm thinking, well, unless they're all walking around ready to go, that doesn't tell her anything.
So I guess what she must have been inferring was a correlation between the erect penis and ball size, testicular girth, and final product.
Well,
she must have been, but again, she was in the mid-teens. What did she know?
Okay. Yeah. That's all right. I'm sure I said silly things like that 20 years ago too.
Yeah, I mean.
No, that has nothing to do.
Okay. Really nothing to do? Because it seems like there must be some sort of upper or lower limit for the amount of expansion you could get into any retail space.
Okay, I've done, coming back to my aged some some parts get bigger and some get smaller, right? And let's just say there are some older gentlemen who, the toilet wheelchairs that you put them in and you wheel them over the toilet.
This is going to a
Much
bad
of them
place.
bang against the rim. So no, it doesn't equate to it. That's what I'm saying to you. Most definitely not. If anything, I'd think it went the other way.
Wow, that's interesting. Huh.
Because they bang against the rim of the loo. It's not good.
You know, Dale, I don't know how long you've been taking part in these particular hangouts. The two of us started together probably several months ago. Did you ever envision you would be getting involved in a conversation of penis size?
That's kind of where I thought it would go. That was sort of my primary interest and why I started with the podcast, because I knew it would go there eventually. So, and here we are.
And size doesn't always equate to talent either. You've really got to have both.
Okay, is there a next story, Ed?
I think I don't know, pretty lowbrow. I don't know if I can go any lowbrow than that. But this is a story. It's in the chat room, chat area. Posted a couple of links. And last week it was a couple of Chinese researchers. They put out, they reported a study where they had genetically modified human embryos. But if you look at the abstract, they clearly say zygotes, not embryos. In any event, the National Institute of Health reiterates their ban on on editing human embryo DNA. The agency's issues statement after researchers deleted a disease gene in non-viable zygotes. The NIH has reaffirmed its ban on research that involves gene editing of human embryos. The director, Francis Collins, spelled out the agency's long-standing policy against funding such research and the ethical and legal reasons for it. The NIH is concerned about the safety of the technique and the ethical implications of altering genes that will be passed to future generations of humans. Collins also pointed out that there were few clinical situations in which editing would be the only way to prevent the passage of a genetic disease from parent to child. In all but very rare cases, parents with genetic disease could create embryos in vitro and screen them for the presence of faulty genes. Additionally, Collins wrote a 1996 U.S. law known as the Dickey-Wicker. That can't be an accident. The Dickey-Wicker Amendment specifically bans the government from funding work that destroys human embryos or creates them for the purpose of research. Later rules rewarded research in embryonic stem cell lines. The NIH says law's wording would probably prohibit funding for work in non-viable human embryos, since it defines embryo as anything derived from fertilization, parthenogenesis, cloning, or any other means. Man, this is a religious organization. The research published in Protein and Cell used embryos, zygotes, that had been fertilized by two sperm, rendering them non-viable. Unlike many other countries, the United States does not ban work in on human embryos outright. While some states do have some restrictions, other rules are less clear, and some do not ban it at all. I'm not in favor. This is a Chinese guy. I'm not in favor of the NIH policy, and I believe the Chinese paper shows a responsible way to move forward. Stop there. So we're talking zygotes here. not embryos.
But Francis Collins, who you mentioned there,
Mm-hmm.
while he is not one of these young Earth creationists, he does not believe in intelligent design. He is an evangelist Christian, all the same. He's got kind of a hybrid viewpoint on this. But he believes that life begins at conception, that is, parental sex. Right? So, zygote, embryo, to him it doesn't seem to matter. A blastocyst of 10 cells, to him is already human life. And that religious information may be guiding this. Although, hey, if they clarified it specifically embryonic, they said embryo, that keeps the zygote and the blastocyst research completely viable and doable, because that's not the same thing if words have meaning.
Dale, you're either having a headache or thinking of something you wanted to say.
I think they're
not sure which. You had a very pained expression. Any comment, Dale?
I'm this whole we have to embrace the re-engineering of everything. I'm going back there again. Let's do it in a responsible way, and let's re-engineer everything. Let's get rid of all disease. We're going to make some mistakes. There's going to be collateral damage. Let's wipe out criminal minds and criminal personalities.
Wait, Dale. Oh, you froze there for a second. Okay. I was with you with the collateral damage. Let's go forward. Let's re-engineer. Love it, love it. There's something, though, that you said towards the end was just downright frightening, though. Removing the criminal brain. The subjectiveness of what's a criminal at any given point in time in our society is such that when this is applied, right, if you look back into the past, gosh, there's a lot of criminals that we hold up as heroes. There's a lot of dissident behavior that led to freedoms.
It's the 3 strikes rule. You see, you rape somebody once and they get sent to prison for a long period of time. You rape them again, you get sent to prison again. Third time. I'm sorry, but if it kind of gets into the same thing as appropriate in certain circumstances.
I mean, if you can tell after the fact, if we're talking about eliminating it from the next generation, I think that can get really sketchy. Like,
how do you feel about the death penalty?
Well, yeah. I think there's instances where I don't disagree with it. And I mean that, I've always lobbied against it in the sense that, if we had a Tim McVeigh alive still today, right, we could have a fuller understanding of his psychological profile and the things that led up to it, and we may know more about those events by this point than we ever knew, than we did with some cursory interviews before he was quickly put to death. So I'm against it in that instance. I'm against it because I mean, not morally against it. I'm against it because I don't trust the judicial system to put only guilty people in front of this consequence. You need to look no further than the state of Texas, or the genetic revolution and cold cases where so many innocent men were set free, to say, because our judicial system lacks the sigma of efficiency required for such a hefty toll to be placed from the government upon the citizens, that you would have to make it illegal. Morally, the idea that somebody I know did a heinous crime and we just put them to death, no problem with it. But because there's humans and subjective justice, meaningless word, involved, yeah, against it, right? But not purely just out of preservation of life. There's a lot of layers to that, right? I mean, and that's why the emotional reaction to this person committed these heinous crimes against innocent people, children, whoever. Yes, we must. We must just put the 8-cent bullet, not a lifetime of preserving their existence in prison. But we don't have a perfect system that decides these things, so I have to be against it. Now, on the other hand, I think many of our sentences are way too severe. You know, I think that there's way too many 20-year sentences passed out that were a 5-year sentence or a 4-year sentence or a 3-year sentence might suffice. You know, and I think that's part of the reason in America we have such a high percentage of our population in prison. It's because initially not a bad suggestion that the judicial system shouldn't be biased, meaning 2 people go in, or 3 people from 3 different counties go before judges for the same crime. One's from a well-to-do, well-connected family. They do 6 months in jail. The next one is from an unconnected family, and they do 6 years. And the third one, the judge there is just sort of extreme on his punishments, and they do 15 years. We had a system that was so hodgepodge and different in every scenario, regardless of where you were, that it didn't seem justice was equal. You could get completely different sentences, or no sentence, or a light sentence, or a really heavy sentence, depending on where you were brought before the judge. So they brought in this thing, this sort of mandatory minimum thing, that took the judge out of the picture, saying if they're found guilty, you can't look at the circumstances, you can't look at the situation, you just got to look at the crime is the XYZ crime, you get the XYZ punishment. And of course, there's injustice that takes place there because there's always extenuating circumstances. So, you know, the justice system, the incarceration justice system that we have just fails. It just fails the victims, the perpetrators, it fails everybody equally. It's just bad. So we do need a better system all around. We do need an actual rehabilitation system or re-education system.
What if that can be done genetically, though? What if you can alter the person's biology such that the probability of them committing a heinous crime is less?
Because the only way I think you could do that, Dale, is if you turned people into I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a eunuch, right? But you would have to turn people into basically drones. You'd have to make them programmable from birth. You'd have to make them without ambition or without creativity or without sort of emotion. You would have to really create the worker ant and the worker bee. You would have to be creating something that didn't have the ability to do great art or great works of literature. Because I think there's a connection. I believe in nurture more than nature. I think nurture is a much more important factor in the outcome of a human being than the genetic code that they came into the world with. I think it has everything to do with it. Maybe somewhere locked into the genetic code is your potential within your system of nurture, but not your determining factors. So I would be against it because I think it would get rid of all that I hold dear and good in society. I think we would lose our artists. I think we would lose our musicians. I think we would lose our political activists. I think we would lose our visionary writers. I think we would lose our philosophers. I think we would lose our scientists as well. I think we would lose a big portion of society. But what we would have, Dale, is really good businessmen.
I think
maybe not even that. Maybe we just have retail workers, because I think even businessmen need a little bit of larceny in their hearts to do good.
I think you're so wrong. I think you're way off base on the whole thing. Nature, nurture, it doesn't matter. It's all programming. It's all inputs and outputs. It's just a different way of affecting personalities. So you change the environment instead of the genetics. I think it's going to accent people. I think it's going to make us better. I see the cup is half full, and it can be a wonderful thing. And I think it's going to happen because everybody wants this. Like right now, if someone murders your family, right? Suddenly your family's gone. That person, that criminal that did that for whatever reason, we're going to house them in prison. We're going to have to pay to keep them in there, and it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, keeping this person for that lifetime. Wouldn't the money be better spent genetically rehabilitating that person if the engineering was there to be able to do that, and focus that money on helping the person that was affected by that heinous crime? I think it has the potential to be very, very good. And then in minor ways, very, very minor ways, if there's something about my own personality that I want to improve, right? Let's say it's something as simple as being a little bit better driver, so that my responses are slightly quicker. Maybe save a child's life because I'll be able to react quicker. I don't think it's all has to be a negative outcome. I think we begin to manipulate ourselves to make ourselves better and more creative in our entire society, because we'll have the luxury of re-engineering ourselves.
And I guess I feel like you're, and I love that we actually finally really disagree. But I feel like that's Brave New World, you know, where we have, because we need different abilities in society. So you have the alphas, the betas, the epsilons. You know, you have all the different categories that need to be then produced to fill specific roles. It becomes a genetic caste system pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Genetic caste system. Is that what you said? What does that mean?
A genetic caste system. So, I mean, we need people who are good at driving, but we also need good people who have strong backs who are good at labor. We need good construction people. We need good scientists who don't need the construction thing or the other element. So then what we end up doing is planning a society of genetically altered to have a specific role in society, right? Because we're still going to need, like you say, good drivers, but maybe the genes that make you a good driver aren't in the same alphabet soup that make you a good heart surgeon or a good, right? So what we start doing then is picking the roles that we need in society and altering our future generation accordingly. And you know what? Maybe those labor tasks. Hey, you know what? It'd be a lot easier for those labor tasks to do that job if they're lower in ambition. Maybe those who have, you know, who are going to be working in accounting should have less greed, less personal interest, so we don't have, you know, any outbreaks of people sort of looting, or what's the word when you take money from work through accounting? What is that? Anyway, maybe there's ways of then dialing in each of the aspects of occupation within society that eliminates ambition or greed or artistry. Because maybe, you know, if you're an accountant, maybe artistry is a bad thing, getting too creative with it. Maybe you want somebody who's just going to follow basic. So to me, that idea is terribly frightening. I think it's better to have a little bit of a Wild West of a society so that we can get the really good people, even if we have to put up with the bad. But I also don't agree that it is genetically wired. I don't. I think it is all nurture. I think the reason we don't have We don't have Buddhists and Christians running off and doing suicide bombings against others. Has nothing to do with genetics. I think the reason that we see this as an element of Al-Qaeda or ISIS is completely the nurture, and I would weigh that nurture on the fact that women aren't well represented in those societies, that young men and women can be convinced that it's an okay idea to destroy themselves in a homicide. So I disagree completely. I think it's all nurture. Well, it's Nietzsche. I'd put Nietzsche versus nurture. Like, which one of those is more important? But I think nature has the least to do with it, outside of potential.
Have anything to say, Pamela? You're rolling your eyes.
No, I don't. It might sound nice to take away the criminal aspect genetically, but then you're taking away choice. So you might. No, but even nurture. You might be nurtured in a criminal environment, and you still can make the choice to break that pattern and not continue that on. So we always have choices. I don't think that we should be genetically engineering people at this stage.
Look at your little walker.
Oh yeah, she runs around. She's a
totally
climber.
Mobile.
Yeah, she climbs everything. She's completely mobile. She doesn't need me anymore at all. She's been walking for 3 months.
Nice.
Now she runs. She dances. She's got a little dance routine. She's added a twirl. Yeah. I feel kind of ripped off because I didn't get much of a baby. She was. What?
Yeah, they grow up really fast, but this is the funnest time anyway. This is when they're.
Yeah, but I've got friends with babies older than mine, and they're still just crawling. Yeah. Mine's just like, I don't need you.
Well, now too, the earlier they walk, usually the later they'll talk. And
okay. Oh no, she says something.
They usually take one direction and exceed at it a little more than the other. Rarely do they do both, but you'll see really athletic kids or really coordinated kids, and they seem to talk. They won't even be talking at age 2, and then you'll see kind of uncoordinated kids who are still crawling and scooching around on their butts when other kids are walking, but they'll come out with complete sentences well before the other kids are putting words together.
Yeah, no, she's only one word at a time now.
Yeah.
Not
so she's probably more following the athletic path earlier.
So far, and no, but she says she talks, and she's been feeding herself for ages. She won't let me feed her. So I have to get food that she can feed herself without making too much of a mess. And
Strong-willed.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And nappy changes. She stands up for them. She hasn't had a bath in months. She has to be showered because she stands. She won't sit. And she half changes herself. She takes herself off to the potty. I know. I didn't get much of a baby. I feel like I missed out.
Baby, you got another little Pamela.
No, I wasn't like this though. I did everything kind of late, apparently.
Yeah, but you're probably talking right away.
Yeah, I came out talking. Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't ask anyone. And I know her dad. He was still sleeping all the time at this stage. He wasn't doing anything. So I don't know where she's getting it from.
That's an example, Pamela. Your nurturing is going to have a bigger impact on Chelsea's future behavior than anything in her genes, as far as I'm concerned. And getting back to that issue, crime, punishments, everything should be based on science, on scientific studies. So if you look at, why would you execute a person? What would be the reason behind executing a person? Is that going to reduce the risk of murder in society as a whole? What's the evidence to support that? And I can think of a country, if you go to Denmark, the Scandinavian countries, but Denmark and Norway, they do not execute any criminals, and the longest sentence anyone can get, even a serial killer, is 25 years.
Actually,
That's
I think that Ed. Actually, I think that's long, or maybe it's gone up to that. My understanding was in Denmark, the longest sentence that the courts could impose was 12 years.
I thought it was 25, but you could be right. But they focus, when Dale, you were talking about resources, they focus their resources on rehabilitation. And even the prisons themselves are, the prisoner is just treated like almost like an average person. Now, it's a smaller country. The dynamics are very different, certainly, but they treat the individual, the incarcerated individual, as if they're a regular person. That's the way they treat him. That's the way they interact, as opposed to the American system where you got the prison guards and the convicts, and you got a real, difficult situation where there could be violence between one or the other, and it's just a completely different dynamic. But we should go by the science. And where we see a system, such as in Denmark, and that system is working, we should at least start that on a pilot study somewhere in a prison in the United States.
Yeah, we don't have the death penalty again.
Yeah, we should start it on Science Island.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, Denmark is a science island. Like Denmark, I think the population of the nation, what is it, like 6 million people?
I don't think. Why don't we just all move to Denmark?
Hey, and it's on an island.
Yeah, wouldn't that just be easier? Let's just do that.
Yeah, actually, that probably would work. Right?
Pamela, you are now dressed up like the Yukon, and it's only 54. You go to Denmark, and you're looking at, -1 is summertime, maybe.
Denmark isn't that cold. If you go to Norway, yeah, that's way up in the Arctic. Denmark is coastal, foggy. It's the North Sea or whatever it is, but it's not
Yours and stuff. That's all I know.
Yeah, but they're not the. I mean, it snows there, but they're not frozen tundra, bitter cold.
Okay.
Denmark doesn't get that bad.
We're wearing warm clothes because I only put a heater on when it's like 0, and and the same when I live in the tropics. I don't have an air conditioner in tropical far North Queensland. People think I'm crazy, but I don't have an air conditioner. So I dress for the climate rather than use electricity. So I probably look like it's colder than it is. But in Denmark, if it was cold all the time, I would put the heater on. Sorry, planet.
But it's Denmark isn't that bad. Denmark, because it's got the fog layers and stuff. Denmark is probably like most of winter in Denmark is probably just a little colder than where you are now. It's really not that bad.
That's right. So then I just put more layers. That's all.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh. But part of the Denmark scene, though, is that this is not only a culturally homogeneous and racially homogeneous society for a great extent. It's not the melting pot, and I think this is something that's interesting. I think this feeds into it in America, which is you can have dozens and dozens of different groups of Americans who feel disenfranchised based on their race and economic status and can feel unconnected with the national whole because we're so diverse that it's hard to be part of that majority. It's getting harder and harder to be part of that majority American thing. Because, you can say, oh, well, racially, we're more this than that. But then I'm within the race, are you Southern? Were you born in this side of the tracks, that side of the tracks? Northern, is your politics this? Is your economics that? What did your father do? I mean, then you have to keep looking at everything, right? Denmark, I don't know. I mean, everybody in Denmark can get behind Holger Dansk, who's the giant that sleeps under the Kronborg Castle and will awaken to defend the nation if they're ever attacked again.
You can get Justin.
Huh?
You can get us into Denmark, can't you? You've got contacts.
Oh yeah, my son's a citizen, so I think
Yeah.
just by that we'll be able to weasel our way in.
Yeah. I think we should just do that.
I went to Wikipedia, and Justin, you're right. Overall, they do have a much milder climate. They're talking about in January would be 3.3 or 38 degrees. That's not bad. March 43.
Yeah.
And in the summertime in the 70s. So you're right. You're right. It's a
EU.
far more milder climate than I thought.
Yeah, Denmark. You gotta. Denmark is just like an island in the sea, just north of Germany. It's not even. It's not Sweden, and Sweden is like a coast of California, and it's how far north it's gonna go, right? I mean, and then above that, then you've got like a Norway, you know. So it's of the Scandinavian countries, Denmark is the most British Isle-like. And it's being mostly on Sealand, which is an island north of Germany, but at sea. And when you get the sea, you get that marine layer, you get the fog, and it kind of prevents it from getting too hot or too cold. It's a pretty temperate region there.
My daughter can get me in because Denmark's part of the European Union and she's British, which is part of the European Union.
Wait, is it Denmark? I don't know if Denmark is.
I just looked on I looked on Wikipedia. I didn't look any further.
No, maybe you're right. I thought Denmark resisted. I thought Denmark didn't do it, but maybe I'm wrong about that. It was.
Hang on, let me just read the whole thing.
I thought they still had the Kroners going on there. I thought it was like Denmark. No, wait. The Brits. The Brits didn't EU themselves.
Yeah,
Did they?
they have their own currency.
Oh.
They still have, but they're in the EU.
I don't know if Denmark is EU. I think Denmark is still part of some sort of Scandinavian coalition of elfish,
they join the
white people.
EU. No, but they. Oh, I've just lost the paragraph now. It said they joined. Member of the. Yeah. You joined the European Union in 1973, but maintained their own currency, the krone. Yeah.
Wait, 1973?
That's what it says. I'm guessing someone has edited it incorrectly. I need to get better.
None of that makes sense. Yeah, something's not right there.
This is what I'm reading. You look at it. I'm like,
I don't want to read anything because I believe everything I read. I'm not going to read anything I don't believe.
Yeah. So Wikipedia is wrong. I don't know. Anyway, if they are part of it, and if I can find a good source that says it, then she can get me in. So that's all good. And if not, well, a lot of people are blonde there, right? I'll blend in.
I don't know what their immigration laws are, though.
Okay.
They could be restricted.
Very right-wing movement to limit immigration to the country, and part of that is because they have a lot of. I can't remember what country predominantly is the one. Maybe Turkey, when I might be wrong about that, but they've got a lot of Middle Eastern immigrants. Mostly, they were brought in to work originally in the offshore oil industry, yes. I believe.
I think you're right.
But now there's neighborhoods that are predominantly the Muslim thing, and with Denmark, it's not like the United States where we have illegal immigrants that are the backbone of our agricultural industry, restaurant industry, construction industry at this point, but are afforded no social benefit. If you live in Denmark, you can get the social welfare. It's just pretty much automatic. If you're there and have a residence, you're in. That's just it, pretty much. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. So and again, when we talk about the melting pot of America, I don't understand how we can discriminate against groups that have immigrated here. When you're talking about Denmark, which is the first flag to fly in historical record. The Danish flag is the oldest of all flags. This is a population of 6 million-ish people who the reason they've kept their population so low is because people, when they get of age, they just leave the country. They go emigrate somewhere.
Okay.
That their social identity is being very challenged, and the backlash on a cartoon was such that they no longer trust a population that has immigrated into the country, and I can understand it. Pamela Sue, you have your hand up in the back row.
Yeah. So I found an article in The Guardian from last year, 2014, and Wikipedia would be a typo because it's 1993. So the 1973 is just typo. Because when I read it, I was like, I don't think that's right. But yeah, 1993, and they kept their currency.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are. So we're in. We're in.
Yeah.
I'm going to get back to Dale's original comment. I don't know, it was last year or something, I forget. But
you got both me and Pamela on. We're going to ramble, Ed. I'm sorry.
That's great. That's great. But the algorithm, everything being the algorithm. And I think, I sort of kind of agree, but not completely. How's that for a good statement? Because you have mutation occurring essential. It is essential that the algorithm changes, I will say, almost unpredictably. And that's absolutely essential to evolution. So you might have an algorithm that you could use that would equal a particular kind of behavior at a particular kind of time. But as the environment changes, the algorithm's got to change if it's going to work properly. See what I'm getting at, Dale?
Well, I do, but again, you can't definitively change anything because it's like chaos theory. All you can do is tilt probability. And the way you can tilt probability, and quite dramatically, is one way is genetically, and the other way is through your environment. And the combination of those two things leads to the programming of human beings and how we react and how we respond. So what you're doing is directed evolution through tampering with those two things. Now, the one thing I didn't say that it was just going to be genetic, purely genetic manipulation. Environment plays a critical role. To learn more of all these things, we are going to be able to direct with more and more certainty and higher probability the essence of who we are. And we will go there. It's people naturally want to be better at things. They want to, and you know what? It'll lead to greater diversity. It won't be a less diverse society. I climb towers. I want to be a little bit stronger and a little better at it. Will not want to do that sort of thing. Others will choose other things, and we won't all be the same. Perfect will mean how individualistic we are and what you can be as an individual to stand out.
So part of what I'm agreeing with you on now, and I guess it's maybe I missed it before, or maybe it's the translation in what we're talking about. But if we are talking about making these manipulations embryonically, zygotically, blastocystically, fetally, severe problem with it because I don't know what the outcome and the choices are. If you're talking about being able to do a sort of a genetic treatment where you would be able to be stronger and better at climbing towers after having chosen tower climbing as being part of your career. Completely agree with it. I would love for there to be, you know, adjustments this far into the game, right? I would love to be able to tweak the field where I'm like, you know what, I really wish I had better lung capacity, because as a spelunker, this is important to me, or as a what do you call it, abalone diver, whatever it would be, right? Like this is something I could totally benefit from and make my life so much more awesome. Totally agree with it, right? That would totally be the Pandora's box of being able to choose your equipment going into life. I guess I was conceiving of it as purely something that you would have to choose for the individual before you met them, right? Before they were born, and determining what would be or wouldn't be a criminal bent. And I suppose I mean, we may find, for the sociopaths, I don't know that we need them. Like, I might put sociopaths on the same category of mosquitoes. Yeah, they've been part of the fabric of the ecosystem for a long time. Not necessarily sure we need them, or that we've benefited.
Oh, big business. Stephen Jobs.
Really? Is Stephen Jobs considered a sociopath?
Well, I don't know. He's never been tested, but he had sociopathic behavior in terms of a lack of empathy.
You know what? You know one thing that could totally as you say, that would make sense, was when he discovered who his birth father was, because of course he was adopted, and discovered who his birth father was, and discovered the man ran a restaurant in Palo Alto, and went and ate there, and asked to speak with the chef, and complimented him on the dinner, and never revealed to his father that he was his son. And that seems like a slightly sociopathic ability to sort of be emotionally uninvolved in that scenario. So you might be right. Maybe we do need the sociopaths.
Well,
Ed,
just talking about Stephen Jobs, and I can remember a few things. One of the things was his programming buddy, Wozniak. They were like partners. In their first contract, or whatever you want to call it, Wozniak, of course, was the programmer. And I don't know if it was Hewlett-Packard or somebody, their first paycheck. And Jobs made the decision that he was more important than Wozniak. And so he said, Wozniak, here's $500. Here's your share. And he kept the lion's share. And then when there was I don't know the circumstances, like a major stock funding thing, and Apple made thousands of billions of dollars, and it was certain people would get a share. They would get a share in that profit. And he said, okay, as of this date, everyone at this certain level gets this extra bonus. Now, one of the people who also worked hard went on vacation. He didn't get the bonus. Didn't make any difference whether he actually earned it. Stephen Jobs said, everyone on this date who's in the company, as of this date gets the bonus, and it didn't make any difference. That guy put in 100 hours a week. He didn't get a bonus.
I heard that some of that culture still exists at Apple today, that they're like, they have to put in it's like mandatory overtime at the campus.
Now, I'm also going to digress because I want to show you someone who's got a really, really incredibly cool job. Wouldn't you like to do this at work?
That looks pretty awesome.
I mean, come on.
If you get rid of the rope from that shot, it's Iron Man. It's just Iron Man.
It's so much fun. It really is. If you've ever done any rappelling or anything like that, it's great fun and it's great exercise. It's awesome.
done a little rappelling. I've done much more just free climbing. But I enjoy heights. I'm not somebody who's ever been afraid of heights. I enjoy. I will not. I mean, I'm afraid of jumping off of things. You'll never catch me skydive. I'll never jump out of a plane, right? But I don't. I like heights and I like climbing heights. So that looks like that would be really like a fun day.
Yeah, absolutely. The only time it doesn't get fun, I get a little bit seasick. The higher you go and the more wind you get, those towers move. And,
they are moving, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I do get a little bit nauseous, and if there's a lot of wind and you're trying to work, you literally you're heaving over the side of the tower for me anyway. So I don't think I do that good at sea.
How high up are you?
In that shot,
Yeah.
about 650 feet.
Wow. Wow. Holy smokes.
650 feet. Whoa.
That's intense.
Yeah. Yeah, the tallest I've gone is we have a tower that's about just a little over 1,400. Yeah, once you get up there, it moves a lot. It moves quite a bit.
You need a harness. You need a parachute.
No, it's all really.
Can you parachute from that height?
Geez, I don't.
1,400.
No, I wouldn't want
to. You must be able to. You must be able to.
That'd be like 140 stories, right? Is that about 10 feet per story? Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, easily. Right?
5,000 feet or 4,000 feet to open a parachute in time?
I think so.
I'm just going from my skydiving experience. I thought that's like if you didn't open it by 4,000, you were just going to die.
Yeah, okay, but also you're at full speed there. When you first jump off of that 1,000-foot platform, you're not at full speed. It takes you a certain amount of time to get to the full, 300 miles an hour, whatever it is.
No, I was dropping at 230 kilometers an hour, which is about, I don't know what that is in miles.
It's like a lot of descent at once. But there's like a maximum speed limit you hit, which if you've already been dropping and you get down to 4,000 feet, maybe it's, you're supposed to. But I think, because you get like the cliff jumpers in the building, there's people who parachuted off of buildings.
Yes. I don't know, do they have almost like a hang gliding thing, or is it just a regular, some kind of special?
It's what kind of parachutes look like today anyway. It's not like the round one. The one you see, they all kind of look like half parachute, half paraglider.
Dale, you're going to be hanging around a little bit because I've got a story, the kind of story that you absolutely love talking about. Energy companies screwing with the environment. And okay, I'll put the link in the chat room. It's our friend Duke Energy. Okay, now I'll read from the story. This is from the Guardian, British Guardian. Duke Energy hands out bottles of water after wells polluted. Hey, don't worry about a thing. Your well water is polluted, but here, you got some bottled water for you. We're going to take care of you. The company says move stems from an abundance of caution after potentially toxic chemicals were found in wells near sites where the electric giant stores coal waste. And Duke Energy, the largest electrical utility in the United States, and they've agreed to provide dozens of families with bottled water after state testing found private wells near sites where the company stores waste contaminated with potentially toxic chemicals. Over the last week, the state's Department of Energy and Natural Resources has sent out 87 letters to residents who live near where Duke stores tons of ash coal, coal ash, a toxic slurry left over from burning coal in unlined pits. In order to reduce or eliminate this increased health risk, the North Carolina Division of Public Health recommends that your well not be used for drinking and cooking. A lot of residents are really concerned because some of them have been drinking from supplies for decades. North Carolina nonprofit, this is the Catawba Riverkeeper, and he has been visiting residents affected by contamination over the last few weeks. You start thinking about any health problems, and you have to wonder what they're related to. The letters are just the latest in a years-long saga in the state involving Duke Energy, North Carolina's government, and residents and activists who have been pressuring the state to crack down on Duke's storage of coal ash. North Carolina has some of the weakest coal regulations in the country, and Duke has been allowed to store ash in unlined pits, often next to rivers and other bodies of water. In other states, such as South Carolina, Duke and other coal-producing companies are required to keep their coal ash in lined pits. But Duke says there's no proof that the chemicals come from their site, and the company is still testing to determine where exactly the chemicals are coming from. Unlined coal ash toxic chemicals, and the chemicals are in the well water. Got to do a lot more study there, I'm sure. But spokeswoman Erin Colbert says the company is willing to give anyone who received a letter from the state a supply of bottled water out of an abundance of caution. I love this. We want people to have peace of mind. There you go. Here's a bunch of bottled water for your contaminated well water. That's really going to give people peace of mind. Last year, a Duke-owned coal ash pond spilled 82,000 gallons of ash into the Dan River, coating the bottom of the river for dozens of miles. That spurred the state to pass the Coal Ash Management Act in August, which required Duke to begin cleaning up some of its 14 coal sites and mandated further testing on all coal sites. These recent tests underscores what we've been trying to say all along. Activist group person Amy Adams. Storing ash in unlined pits is the most dangerous way to do this. The solution to the state's ash problem isn't clear. The new state law only requires Duke cleanup for 4 sites, and Duke stores 120 million tons of coal ash in the state, and has said that removing it, all of it, would take years, cost millions of dollars, which would probably be reflected in higher energy bills. Don't want no higher energy bills. You can live with a little bit of polluted water. We're not talking about anything high-tech, however, says the activist. We're talking about a plastic liner. There you go. Don't have that problem with your Canadian energy companies, do you?
Oh, I think there's problems everywhere. You know what? We all want cheap energy. Yeah, they're guilty. They've done some bad things. They're trying to make a profit. But you know what? We all want that cheap energy, right? And how many years did they enjoy that really cheap energy for cents in the dollar instead of paying a premium and maybe having to be more ethical about issue? We can't get to I don't know what the word is. We got to stop pointing our fingers and make some decisions on what we want to do. And you know, we're kind of depending on governments to help lead that charge. But you know, you look in the U.S., right? And I don't know tons about U.S. politics, but you see lots of fingers being pointed back and forth, and there's no leadership. It's getting lost in the noise of finger pointing and lobbyism and all these other things. And so I don't know. I think the way out will be, and again, I'm a firm believer, science is the way out. And you know, maybe they can't make the decisions clearly to help some of these issues. So maybe the way forward is putting more dollars into science, because technology at least is a way out of these things.
It is, and this is I guess part of what this hangout is about, which is the Science Island, which is the whole idea, is that
Which is down.
get off of it. Just get off of it. Just get off of that grid. Just get out of the finger pointing, and be self-sustained. You know, not participate in that market. And if you can show that it's possible by an example, hopefully others would follow. Hopefully others would employ the same strategy.
And scientific breakthroughs will make it easier and easier to break away on your own.
Absolutely. And this is why there is the big resistance from, for instance, oil companies to anything to do with global warming or any need to make the change. And global warming is just the latest. I mean, this goes back. This is one of these things that probably everybody here knows, but you know, I don't know that most of the nation in America knows that one of the greatest systems of light rail and mass transit was created in Los Angeles. Los Angeles had both an above ground, below ground. They had a light rail system, basically, one of the first and biggest in the nation that used mass transit instead of the automobile to transport its population from point A to point B. It was bought. The companies that were involved in that were bought out by oil and automotive industry interests, and they shut it down. And now, you know, the city that's known for cars and gridlock is Los Angeles. You know, this is not the first battle that we've had with progress in this realm. It's been going on from the beginning. It's been a real fight between being part of an economic system based on oil and being part of a system that it wasn't. And because the money is on the money in hand is on one side, and the requirement for investment is on the other, the money in hand keeps winning.
Yeah, I think we're making progress at the local level. There are a lot of the individuals making better decisions. There's a growing number of people living off the grid. Still, I don't, maybe even if it's 2 million out of 300 million, it's a small percentage, but it's a growing number. The trend is up. We see on the big scale things like that pipeline being shot down. We're seeing activism such that killed the merger. Not the same thing, but you had that merger between Comcast and Time Warner that would have gone through in a heartbeat 20 years ago, and people started complaining. The government, okay, they know where their voters are, and the merger didn't go through. So we're starting to see individuals, more than governments, making changes, making some of the necessary changes.
Right. So and I need to become more media savvy in my computer editing. There's a Meaningless Words or Science Island or This Week in Science rant that I want to do, and it fits in all categories. But I would love to bring all the C-SPAN that I've watched with Ted Cruz interviewing, hosting, interrogating NASA. Because the reminder that needs to keep being put in front is his entire emphasis in all of these conversations are to create a reason to defund NASA observing, recording, documenting global warming. And he wants their mission to only be about going into space, putting people into space. Let's just go to space. Let's go further into space. And from such a contrived position that he's even trying to use the inspirational message of people into space, landing, putting feet on other planets or planetoids, is the sort of thing that inspires young boys and girls to get into science. At the same time, attempting to defund a big aspect of the science that's being done by NASA. And I would love to, sort of like Mystery Science 3000, just play that and talk over it a bit, or pause it and interact with it, because he brought in astronauts and asked them what our mission should be. And of course, the astronauts typically are going to just be telling you, oh yeah, I would love to see us get to Mars, or this is, you know, the astronauts are going to be pretty well wired towards the space explanation of astronauts in space, because that's what they know and love and do. One of the astronauts he brought up and says, I got to tell you though, when I look back and I saw the planet, I realized that that's the most important thing that we've got. That's where we are. That's the one planet that is a habitat for humanity, and we need to focus on it. And of course, Cruz didn't really, you know, want to delve into that further. But he also brought the head of NASA, what's his name, Holden, and they had a very contentious back and forth. Because one of the things that Cruz brought up this chart was the increase in Earth sciences, in Earth observation, Earth science that was being done by NASA. It was up 40% as in terms of portion of the budget. Whereas actual space exploration, money spent on putting rockets up and that sort of thing, was down 7%. It was like, well, is this really where NASA should be? And Holden goes, yeah, well, actually, what is this? I'm gonna have to Google this now. He goes, no, actually, yeah, this is exactly it. We've implemented what we were asked to do. You asked us to become more efficient about space exploration. You asked us to rely more on private industry. You asked us to make the whole system more economical. And we've succeeded in doing so by making it cheaper to get into space. We're spending less money on space exploration, but we're set to put up more probes, more people, more probes, more equipment, more everything than we had in the previous decade, and we're doing it with less money. This is what you asked us to do. This is what we're doing. To say that, you know, based on your numbers, a larger percentage of the budget is being on Earth sciences is because this is includes a reduction in space exploration, cost of space exploration, but it also includes the importance of part of NASA's core mission, which he read out to him, which is observing and helping humanity on this planet, right? So, you know, it's under attack, and when we say that progress is being made and science is progressing, it has been and will continue to do so, but it will have to do so largely despite the political pressure, because the political pressure right now is anti-science. The political underpinnings of the current Congress and Senate is anti-science. There's a lot of anti-science because we've put the lobbyists, if you will, the foxes in charge of the hen house. And at the end of the day, you can't expect to have more chickens when you've got more foxes. When you've put the foxes in charge, it's going to reduce the eggheads of science that are, I don't know, now my analogy is getting too far away from me. But we're running into, I think, troubling times. And I think we're running into a potential dark age where our scientific achievements are going to languish in journals and publications, and the implementation of them is going to be retarded by people who employ retarded thinking. And I think it's a dangerous time. I think we're actually at I don't want to get to the crisis-y, doom and gloomy point, but we're at a very serious turning point where political ignorance is trumping. It's not political ignorance. It's political savvy is trumping scientific benefit to humanity, and that's terrifying to me.
I'm way more optimistic than you. I don't have that much confidence in government action, but because it just takes slow government action, takes more time. But you mentioned Cruz. You mentioned, and if you talk about the most anti-science people, they are going to become, in my opinion, less and less electable. I mean, anybody watches these guys, and once they get into a debate with somebody who's got half a brain, they look ridiculous. And I don't think a guy like Cruz stands a chance in the world. I would love to see him get the Republican nomination. I would kind of hope somebody besides Hillary Clinton got the Democratic one, but I would love to see Cruz, because he can't. I don't see any way a guy like that can win, and that's because people are using technology. Science and technology are linked. The objection, I think, mostly stems from jobs, the fear of jobs. You know, climate change. We do things to reduce our impact on the climate, and that's going to somehow cost us jobs. It's going to cost businesses a lot of money, and that's going to affect profitability. But you know, that's I don't think it's science itself, but I think, you know, the anti-science. I really think they're losing. They lost the whole anti-vaccination deal, and like I say, I don't know how pro-science Hillary Clinton is. She's more science, and you know, I think maybe NASA might have a shot at getting some more money out of Clinton. I don't know. It depends on who controls Congress, and I think the next Congress, after this election, where there'll be more Republicans running than Democrats, many of those Republicans going to get beat. I think. I hope. So I think the tide's turning in favor of technology, and that means science. Okay, you doom and gloomers, take your turn. All
right, I put a 2-minute YouTube video in there. Smoke him if you got him.
Jesus.
Take 2 minutes and watch this little.
Oh God. Let's see. You want me to screen share?
Doubt that there are.
Oh no, all you guys can watch it. We don't need a screen share. Go ahead.
It has enabled us to increase full focus on that core mission. The fact that Earth science has increased, I'm proud to say, it has enabled us to understand our planet far better than we ever did before, because it's absolutely critical. And that's just looking at our environment, trying to make sure that we have a better place for all of us in which to live. And I think that's critical. We can't go anywhere if the Kennedy Space Center goes underwater. We don't know it, and that's understanding our environment. As Senator said, it is absolutely critical that we understand Earth's environment, because this is the only place that we have to live. Having had an opportunity to view it from a place where, look around, I'm not sure anybody else in here has had that opportunity. We've got to take care of it, and the only way we can take care of it is that we know what's happening. And the only way we know what's happening is to use instruments that we develop in NASA, and we do it better than anybody else. I'm proud to say that. I always come and brag on my work. We do it better than anybody else.
So after watching that, understand which one of those individuals has budgetary power now over NASA. That's what's fucking frightening. Yeah. That's my concern. That's my worry. This is why I'm not as optimistic as you. I know that we've got the brilliant people and the bright minds employed on tackling these tasks. My fear is that the political savvy of the lobby politician trumps that, and that's what's frightening to me.
I don't think it's particularly good, but I think in the past, governments were the only ones that could do certain types of science. Private companies couldn't do it. I think governments are becoming less relevant. I think that we're going to depend on good old-fashioned capitalism and greed for these small companies disrupting these larger conglomerates, including governments, with new technology. And the science will come from below, not from above, as it once was. Because what's possible, because the science has gotten far enough, the horses have, so to speak, left the barn. That science is now in the hands of many small players, and those small players, they all want to make money. They all want to produce a product that's superior for less money, and they want to deliver it to the masses because it's all within their best interest and greed to do so. So that's what will drive us forward. So although we have these setbacks of politicians trying to seize control and large companies trying to, control things for their own power, I think the disruption of these small forces are going to direct us into the future, and they'll just continue to be less relevant. NASA is not the same relevant entity it was 30 years ago.
And I love what you say about their Dale too, because so part of that is picturing it's like they can shut down what was once the only venue, right, for this to be done. And it's sort of like boycotting a television show. Like, you can't do this on television, on national, but you can do it on cable. But you can do it on the internet. You can do it on a Netflix show. You can say whatever you want on HBO, FX, whatever anything on Netflix. You can do whatever you want there. You can use the F word, right? Well, but you can't use it on network television. Yeah, but who watches that anymore, right? Yeah.
That's right.
I love that. Like, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, the fact that we're going to lose government funding of XYZ technology doesn't mean that we won't all be able to still pursue it and put it on the put the solar panel or the wind turbine on the roof. Like, that's still out of the bag, that technology, and the progression of it will continue with or without nationalistic support. You're right. I agree with it.
Yeah, I see like 6 PhDs are in their garage somewhere saying, fuck all you guys, we're going to do this ourselves, we're going to deliver it for like 1/10 of the price, and we're just going to walk all over everybody, and pretty soon those large entities are going to get wiped out, because large entities by necessity are very slow-moving beasts that are very slow to react. So yeah, power to the people, and it's going to be grassroots, and it is happening. You see evidence of it everywhere, and in fact, that clip, the first thing I thought of is the desperation of these old sort of lethargic companies that and government entities that just don't wield the same power they once did. I thought the NASA guy, Holden, kind of spanked him pretty good, though. Like,
I think so. I think yeah. I'm surprised. Knowing how Holden has been a critic. So the first round of this Ted Cruz as NASA oversight was just with Buzz Aldrin and a couple of astronauts, and Buzz was just insane. Buzz was just literally off his rocker. He's like, what we'll have is I got a plan. He took this question on what do you think the priorities should be to pitch some sort of personal space program that he invented. It's like this was his pitch room opportunity. It's like, we've got recirculating ships that are just staying and they never land, but they're going to carry cargo back, and he just kept going off on this thing. It was pretty wild. All right, but Holden wasn't there. I thought at the time when I saw that on my C-SPAN, on the SPAN, I'm addicted to the SPAN. I love the SPAN. The SPAN is the best thing on television. When I'm watching the SPAN, I'm like, but they didn't bring Holden. He's afraid to talk to Holden, right? This is what I'm thinking. Like, he can't have that guy who will directly undress his arguments and point it in the right direction. That's why he... Apparently, he either had to, right, at some point talk to... Maybe he thought he could best him in a conversation, right? Maybe he thought he could direct him, bully him, out-lawyer. I mean, he's a lawyer. Cruz is. He's a prosecutor. Texas prosecutor. Who knows how many mentally handicapped people he put to death? Right? So he's thinking I can handle it, and he gets Holden on there, and Holden, absolutely obliterates him with the argument, you know. And that was I love this. That's why I love that conversation. That's why Holden deserves exactly to be where he's at. And should be there, and I don't know how much the Cruz position has sway over hiring and firing, but if anything happens to Holden, man, I'm grabbing my axe handle and I'm burning the nearest Rite Aid. It's the only closest thing I've got access to, right? Or CVS, whatever. What was it? Was it a Rite Aid? Was it CVS? I don't know what it is. That and a liquor store. Well, I might loot the liquor store first. That'll give me the courage to take down the big store. But, right, like, this is the sort of thing that, like, I'm concerned. This is why Ted Cruz especially I'm watching more than any of the other politicians. The other politicians on the right are all wing nutty, but he seems to take a particular... Oh, and he is the child of a, what is it, Sandinista? The anti-Castro, right? His father fought against Castro. His mother worked for Shell Oil. What a right-wing neocon bubble this kid was raised in. This is and born in Canada on top of it. Like, how much more?
Oh, no.
Yes. Okay. And this is what I love too. Right?
Sorry about that.
No. This is what I love, because the spin is, well, you know, a lot of prominent American politicians were born overseas. John McCain was born in Panama, you know, in a military base. Barry Goldwater was born abroad. Not a lot of people realize that. A lot of prominent politicians, conservative politicians, were born abroad. This coming from the Tea Party right, who was like, where's your birth? You know, and the argument is, but it's you know, as long as you're one of your parents is a naturalized citizen, it doesn't matter where you're born, you're an American citizen. Where's the birthers? I was born in Kenya, he can't be president. No, he didn't even bring up, right? Well, Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, he was still allowed to be president.
Yeah, that foreign country.
Right? He's Kenyan. Where's his Kenyan birth certificate? He was born in Kenya. Well, according to Ted Cruz, right? Like, that was never an issue, right? Because as long as one of your parents is an American.
Why do you have to be born in the United States to be president anyway? I mean, you can't help where you're born.
Actually, you know, and there was always one argument that I always, like, and as much as he had dual citizenship, so he was actually a citizen of Canada and the United States, somehow. Even though none of his parents were natural-born Canadians, he had to renounce it at some point. this is part of me. It's like, well, if you came to this country and want to be part of it, maybe that's a better marker of your ability to lead in America than somebody who was born here by no choice of their own.
Yeah.
You know how the
his father, by the way, is, I don't know if anybody's seen Ted Cruz's father speak. Ted Cruz's father is an insane racist. He's an absolutely he's this Cuban accented guy. He's like, you know, the problem with the blacks in this country. He talks like this. This is the Shell Oil anti-Castro. These are the people who killed Kennedy. Okay, like this is who birthed Ted Cruz. This is why I'm terrified of Ted Cruz, because he is, you know, when the Rolling Stone said, you know, who killed the Kennedys after all, it was you and me. No, he was actually talking about Ted Cruz's parents. This is who killed Kennedy.
You mean, who is it? Jimmy Carter? Didn't Jimmy Carter have a brother that he had some problems with?
Peanut farmer?
His brother was kind of a regular guy. I don't know, and he didn't, you know, I don't know, might have worked in a gas station. I have no idea. Probably worked
Clinton's brother, too. Clinton's brother wasn't much of a, you know, kid genius. So it was like, they both were like, yeah, I'm in the shadow of my older brother, or younger brother. Was it both younger brothers?
By our siblings.
No, the best of the siblings scenario, or the family scenario, though, has got to be, what is Rand Paul? Rand Paul blamed the Baltimore riots on bad parenting. Right? Bad parenting. And Rand Paul should know about good parenting because his father was a politician, and so he's a politician running, holding office. And the percentages of that are, you have 40% chance if your father was a senator for you to be a senator, right? So I mean, it's good parenting, right? So it's all about the parenting in Baltimore, the bad parenting that resulted in what we saw there. Same week, by the way, that Rand Paul's son gets arrested for his, I think, third alcohol-related driving offense. Yeah. Good parent. Good parenting. So you're saying you're a bad parent, basically. If the kids do something, it's the parent's fault. So the fact that your son's getting arrested and out probably again scot-free for another DUI, is it good parenting that he didn't get arrested, or is it bad parenting that he got arrested in the first place? Or is it good parenting that he gets off? I don't know. What is it? Rand, explain your culpability in your son's alcoholism. Own it or not? You're not going to be president.
Well, moving the discussion back to science and technology, there actually is a backdoor way in which science and the government, U.S. government, is spending money on science and technology, and that's DARPA. Now, I don't care what the politicians say. The generals, they know. They are putting together their military plan based on climate change.
Mm-hmm.
They are spending bajillions of dollars, giving that money to scientists to do all kinds of art. Some of it really not really, very loosely related to the military, but they're spending buckets of money on science because they know that's what the future. The future is going to be based on improved technology. That includes the military and everything else. So the military people, they know, they're not listening to all this political garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of DARPA, by the way.
Yeah, DARPA's good. So you have these government lunatics that are attempting to seize control by manipulating the less intelligent, the uneducated masses, right? And their time is ticking. They don't have I believe they don't have very much longer in this world where they're going to be able to wield that sort of power, because they're taking it back slowly from the ground level. But there's an important thing that I think that could accelerate the process of moving science along, and I have a real problem because it's the protest groups that are out there mean well. You know, they're trying to do a very good thing by bringing attention to negative issues, and they do it very well. Quite often you'll see you know, a polluted river, and they'll gather by the thousands, and the news media gets a hold of it, and it's covered. But what it creates from the company that did it are defensive tactics. It's very human to not think it through from a logical discourse, but they'll basically move into defensive tactics, which basically sort of takes the steam of a large protest. So something that could really benefit society as a whole is if these people could organize and focus on the positive. Imagine 10,000 people showing up to those 6 PhDs, those little bastards in the garage that are capitalists, that are trying to make this breakthrough technology. Imagine if 10,000 people show up at these people's garage and bring that sort of attention to that little breakthrough, looking at the positive side. The defensive tactic that's all very human in us when you're trying to defend something is not there. It's something focused on something positive, and it'll spur investment because there's other capitalists out there, venture capitalists that will want to invest. And the power of the average person to go out and bring attention to these issues could be very powerful.
Well, I think to some extent we've seen this in the past, right? I mean, it's not, they not show up to the garage. But there was a store in the local mall, and I think this is 1983 or 84. And I think the store was called CompuWorld, right? And about that time, I think the hot product there was the Apple SE2, right? And this little store is long gone, long gone. I don't know how far into the PC existence, personal computing, this even got. I only seem to remember it as the SE2 store in a way. Like, it was sort of there, lasted for a while, and then maybe the owners were like, we made boatloads of money, let's retire. I have no idea what happened. But when you get a revolutionary idea like the personal computer, it takes off. And especially in this day and age, I don't know how if anybody I'm talking to here is aware of this. It's not even a watch. I mean, it tells time, but mostly it like counts steps and can track your walk location. It's this sort of like exercise wristband thing. But I'm seeing this thing everywhere now. Like, so many people have got this deal. And somebody thought, like, well, we could combine a little bit of GPS, which you could track your route, could count your steps, talk about your distance, blah, 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 blah. You know, put it to a cloud, and you could download it later. You could look at it. You could analyze it versus the other. This thing seems to be showing up everywhere. When you have a good idea, nowadays, the world can find you. The access is there through, you know, through this thing that was created, by the way, through a government program. Right? This is a combination. The internet is big government. And it's the right kind of big government that created something for the people, created a forum for the people, and then walked away. You know, so there's a combination. We need both. We need the entrepreneurs. We need big government to create the infrastructure. As you know, Barack Obama's infamous quote, "You didn't build this," right? Is right. You didn't build the infrastructure. You didn't build the roads that, you know, and the sewage systems and all this that allow your business to be plunked down and part of this, plugged into the grid. We individuals didn't build the initial internet. But without individuals, there would be no internet. Without government, there would be no internet. So I think we need both. I think we need both in tandem. Just like Ed, I think societies are better. Or Dale, I think societies are better with both men and women being educated and involved. Right? I think when you try to create a society of just individuals and you try to create a society that's just government, I think both of those are bad. I think both of those don't benefit each other in the long run. I think it's a good combination. So I'm not willing to give up my big government. Dale. I feel like it contributes massively on a big scale when it needs to, when it can, and I also think that the hope of that then is in the hands. What the potential of that can be is then in the hands of the individuals and what they do.
Yeah, big government's like that real slow-moving machine.
Once
it gains momentum, it's going to keep going in a particular direction, but it's a slow-moving machine. But then you've got, right, the individual you talked about, they can spin on a dime. And a lot of things happening quickly at the local level just takes much longer to build that momentum on the national level.
And our founding fathers were brilliant in that, Ed. They created a three-headed plus, bureaucracy that can't do anything too quickly. And that's what it's meant to do. It's not meant to move quickly, because you move quickly in a dictatorship. You move quickly in a monarchy. You know, you move quickly in a religious, whatever that is, a theologistic society. You can't move quickly in a multi-headed democracy like we've built. And it's by design. It's so that we don't get overrun by our government. But it also makes positive change sometimes more difficult. So
that change that can happen slowly. You take a country like Iran, and Iran, obviously the government. Well, the head, not the head of the government really, but you got the Ayatollah.
That's Iran. Iran.
Yeah, Iran. But really, it's a country, the government itself encourages education. And I talked a story a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, where you have Iranian female scientists. And there was a list of different scientists, and a couple of them were from Iran. And they had been educated at the University of Tehran. Now, this is a Muslim country, right? But it's a Muslim country that shows a progressive side and a more progressive side than you see almost anywhere else in the Middle East.
Yeah, and they're also, look at it, they're also the most successful and stable Middle Eastern country right now because of it.
Yeah, their government, they went from a government that was more interested in spreading their theology, getting involved in that Sunni Shiite war, and their current government, and that government got defeated, and the current government is a little more focused on Iran itself. That's the government that's been, trying to make a treaty with the United States.
Right.
So there's an evolution there.
As like we've talked about in the past, I think, Pamela, the game theorists projected that the sort of upper class business interests in Iran were going to trump Ahmadinejad, and that their interests held more sway, and they were less interested in his rhetoric in terms of where the country was going to head. And so these business moderates have had tremendous influence. And again, this was science, this was game theory, this was also NASA, or not NASA. Sorry. This is also the NSA being able to monitor enough conversation to plug into the game theory to know where the trajectory of the nation was. To know that the business moderates were going to be having more and more influence over that country and wanting. The reason why sanctions worked is because they're the ones who are getting hurt, and their influence on the society and how it benefits the society is important enough that their voices get heard within the country. And they want more business connections. They want to grow their businesses. They want to be involved in the global economy. So the Ahmadinejads and are going to fade. They're not going to be the strong political players. The Ayatollah will maintain. You're still going to have the religious aspect that's not going away. But in terms of the Middle East, yeah, you have women working, women scientists. It's not an equal society. They still got a ways to go, but it's not as bad as you would see in, say, Turkey, right? Or
well, Saudi Arabia really is the most conservative.
Well, Iraq and Afghanistan are bad. I mean, Yemen's bad. Like nowhere in the Middle East is it really good. Nowhere in the Middle East right now, outside of Israel, is it okay to be a woman? Yeah, in terms of like equal rights. Iran, I think, is probably one of the better of the bunch. Afghanistan used to be long time ago, pre-Taliban, pre-Russian invasion, pre-lots of history. But then we're talking like 40 years. Right?
Turkey is the only functioning secular Muslim, government, I believe, in a predominantly Muslim country. Mm-hmm. Now they're having the I don't know if it's Muslim Brotherhood, but the Muslim, more conservative Muslim element in Turkey has been trying to assert itself more. For instance, the Turkish government at one time, they have their universities. They had a ban against a woman going to college with the headband on. But in Turkey right now, it's iffy. It's starting to change. So I don't know.
Well, and Turkey's in this position during this whole ISIS thing, which is the Turks want to eliminate the Kurds from the planet Earth.
Yeah.
And so they've been allowing ISIS to enter Turkey and transport themselves behind enemy lines to attack Kurdish positions in northern Iraq. They've been preventing Kurds from leaving Turkey to join the fight against ISIS. Turkey has been thwarting, U.S., NATO, whoever, the Iraqi, whoever's fighting ISIS now. They've been thwarting those efforts, and I don't use the word thwart lightly. I almost never use the word thwart. But they've been thwarting quite a bit because they're very short-sighted and they have a very narrow vision of. And the Turks, I don't know. I don't put much faith in Turkey. I don't put much faith in any nation really in the Middle East at this point. Because a couple of women scientists here and there still don't cut it. Women having an equal role in society. And Iran has had spokeswomen representing Iran, which has been pretty impressive, which you don't see from most countries. So Iran's probably, as much as the neocons want to make them the new evil empire, axis of evil, they're probably much more aligned with our ideology than any other nation in that region.
Isn't the Middle East right now kind of in a similar situation to Europe during the time of the civil wars in Europe? Where you had the kings were all related. The King of England was related to the King of France, and they were all intermarried. And
No.
It was a civil war.
Yeah, but no. There were some
100 Years' War and the War of the Roses and.
Yeah, but you had your Queen Elizabeths or Queen Marys. You had your Joan of Arc. I mean, you had your women in positions of strength and power within that society even then. You don't have. I mean, the closest I could think of in the Middle East is Nadia, who was the Iranian protester, the young woman who was shot down by government forces in Iran for protesting in favor of women's rights, I suppose, amongst other liberties.
We can get back to my original idea how women are not.
There I go.
You're telling me about the Queen. There were some pretty nasty queens in England. I gotta tell you. I don't know if it was Victoria, the original Elizabeth. I mean, those queens could get involved in trying to expand the territory. That's a big one. Victoria's very popular.
Internally, very vicious. Very vicious. Do you know why? It was a swing back and forth again between Catholic and Protestant.
Yeah.
And as the Protestant king died and the Catholic queen was put into power through blood, right? You would get a complete shift because the king or queen of England is, of course, also the head of the church. And so the national religion would polarly flip-flop with the changing of the royal guard. And as a result, the priests in favor were now the un in favor. The judges in favor were now the un in favor. And payback's a bitch when you've been oppressed. And then right? And then the flip. So this is the story there. Most of that was internal. Most of the bloodshed and the Inquisition and the terror, it was completely religiously motivated. It would be as though a nation's head in the Middle East flipped from Shiite to Sunni, and Sunni to Shiite again. And the repercussions and the payback continued to go back and forth until you've got people blowing up buses in Northern Ireland because the Irishman on that side of the street has a different religion than you. I mean, it's religiously motivated. This is why secular morality should always trump religious morality or law in every instance. Keep this planet sane.
Dale, how you doing? You hanging in there?
I think I'm gonna crash pretty quick.
Me too. I actually got to get up and
okay.
Well, I'm gonna get more sleep than any of you because you're all in bizarre time zones.
I need to get the least. I'm not going. I mean, I'm going to be up till like 5 o'clock in the morning anyway.
Yeah, but then you'll sleep.
I would have an opportunity to stay up later tonight, but I've got a unexpected stupid work thing I've got to do tomorrow. So
work.
I have an alarm set on a night I normally wouldn't.
I guarantee I'll get less sleep than any of you because I always do.
You've got little Chelsea, or little alarm clock there.
Yeah, I've got Chelsea and I've got a law degree to do someday. So, and I can only do my law degree when she's asleep.
Blah, blah, blah. Make me feel like I'm not doing enough with the time I'm wasting on not getting a law degree.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
See you
Good
guys
night.
next week. Bye.
Good night, all. Bye-bye.